In this crazy real estate market, what are the do's and don'ts when you're making an offer? Stay tuned and you'll find out. It's absolutely insane in the real estate market right now. I'm Sharon Rosa. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. And I want to talk to you today about how do you approach, if you're buying a house, how do you approach doing this and being smart about it, and trying to not be frustrated. It's very difficult when you're working with buyers and they continue to look at houses and get into bidding wars and lose those bidding wars. It's frustrating for everybody. But you also have to make sure, and as the real estate agent, it's my job if I'm representing the buyer, to make sure that the buyer is not doing something that they're going to regret later. So there are just a couple of things that I want to talk about to keep in mind if you are in that situation where a lot of houses are getting multiple offers. The first thing you need to do in your approach is realize that you probably have one shot at this. This is not a case where you're going to counter back and forth. So you want to put your best foot forward first. Don't go in that you're going to put in 10 or 12,000 or 15,000 less and hoping that you'll get into an exchange with the seller and negotiate that way. Probably not going to happen. So go in knowing that this is your one shot. With that in mind, one of the things you might need to do is adjust your range. If you are looking at the top of your range and it has multiple offers, you can't go above that, so you're already setting yourself up for failure. So if the top of your range is 400 or 350 or 300, you probably want to look at homes that are $25,000 under what you can afford, what you would go up to. Then you have some room to work if you decide to do an escalation clause or if you know you're going to have to go in over list price. So keep that in mind. The other thing is you don't want to offer the top of your range and then get into a situation where you need a new roof in 3 months after you move in and you have no extra money left. So be very careful about what you plan as your top dollar number that you can spend, what you're looking at, and then what you're planning to offer. Because unless you have, rich parents or somebody down the road that can give you money to replace that roof, you don't want to get into that house and then realize that you are house poor. So keep that in the back of your mind. Have a discussion with your real estate agent. Just be realistic about what you can spend and then what you might have to, spend after the close. So keep that in mind. The other thing too with that is the appraisal. If you are making offers, and I don't suggest doing this necessarily, but if you are making an offer and waiving the appraisal or not having an appraisal contingency, you're going to have to come up with that money for the difference if the house doesn't appraise. So all of these things your agent should caution you about regarding any of these bidding wars or anytime you are putting an offer in. So what can you do to sweeten your offer if you can't throw cash at a house or if you can't throw any more money at it? Some of the areas that you can look at are other contingencies. Like if you have a house to sell, already have that house on the market and maybe even already accept an offer on it, have it contingent or under contract or maybe even sold. And that way you can eliminate that contingency and that sweetens your offer a little bit. If you sell your house, you might have to rent back from the person that you sold it to, or you might have to move in with in-laws or something for a month or two until you can get into the house that you want to buy. Now, other areas that you can look at are the appraisal contingencies and the inspections, but you need to be careful with those. And though your real estate agent can't give you an appraisal, we're not qualified to do that, they can run comps for you, and that might give you a better sense of if the house will appraise or not. They can look at what's sold there. And so that's something you can consider, but you still need to understand what that means if you waive that appraisal contingency. That also holds true for the inspections. If you want to go in and have no inspections, that's fine, you can do that, but you need to be aware that in that case, you might be walking into, termite damage that you didn't see, or something with the radon that you didn't know about, or a new roof or windows or a leak. There are a lot of things that you might end up having to deal with if you waive those contingencies, if you waive that inspection. Now, if you are making an offer and you know that you have $50,000 set aside to fix anything that might come along, then you can waive that. So those are all things to consider, but you really need to be thoughtful about that process of what you're going to do to sweeten that deal. A couple of other areas that you can be, offer some wiggle room. You can have your buyer's agent tell the listing agent that you are flexible on the close date. You can also say that you are putting a bigger amount of hand money down, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 if you have it. And sometimes that might be important to the seller as well. So those are things that you can do, you can consider to try to make your offer better. And absolutely, and I know I've said this before, but have your pre-qual, and if you can have your pre-approval letter, which in one of my other videos I talked about that, but if you've gone down that road where you can really show that you are a solid buyer, those things are helpful as well. The other area that you can look at is an escalation clause. Now, there are mixed feelings about this among real estate agents and also among buyers and sellers. I don't mind escalation clauses. Sometimes if you're the listing agent and you have 25 offers, and that does happen, you might say no escalation clauses because that complicates things too much. But if you want to do that, talk to your agent about how an escalation clause works. So an escalation clause is an option. Again, sometimes agents put no escalation clauses allowed. Other times it's okay, but that is something that you could do, that you go in at a certain price, but you can escalate up to a certain higher price if you're comfortable with that. Those are just a few tips that if you are looking to buy a house and you keep getting outbid, you should consider to sweeten your offer. Make sure you subscribe at the bottom of the page. I am Sharon Rosa. Email me at sharonrosa@kw.com if you have any questions or you need some clarification on anything in the video. Have a great week, and I will see you next Friday.